You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
That stadium is going to be rocking, and heaven help whoever walks in there to play us.
Sustained effort and violence, you play your ass off.
You're watching the Pirate Preview on The Sports Objective. Join us every Tuesday night on YouTube Live as we're joined by beat writers and other media members as we take a look at what lies ahead for the Pirates. Now, here are the guys.
It is a first down. Pirates.
Welcome into the Sports Objective, our Pirate Preview right here on TSO. And say a shout out to our brother Kyle, still under the weather. Kyle from LaGrange Barber, the ladies' man. Kyle, brother, we are thinking about you and want to give you a special shout out. And I know that he's ready for college football, especially when it comes to Labor Day weekend. That means the start of the football season for the Pirates and NC State. With us right now, Bubba Rosenbaum, all the way from China Grove. What's up, dude?
What's going on, guys? I'm excited to talk some football and, very.
I think we may have lost Bubba there. He's in the win. Matt Semenza, all the way from the great state of Connecticut. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm excited to talk to Cory tonight. You know, I was just saying before the show, I've had enough of Athlon. I've had enough of Phil Steele, all due respect. It's time to lace them up and play. You know, the work's been done, and now it's time to go play some football. So I'm just fired up.
No doubt about it, guys. And before I forget, Porky's Backyard Barbecue, they're going to be there, and we're going to have a tailgate on Saturday, and we'll let you know about that more this week. We'll put out a word on social media. I want to thank Porky's Backyard Barbecue, our good friends Mark and Terry Holiday. I know they're going to have chicken. I don't know if they're going to have barbecue. I don't want to say the menu because we're working that out, but they're sponsoring our tailgate. So thanks to Porky's Backyard Barbecue. Go by and see them if you like good old Southern food like Brunswick stew, and they have mac and cheese, that good old soul food, if you will. Great barbecue chicken and barbecue. Go by and see them at Porky's Backyard Barbecue, and that's 805 East Boulevard in Williamston. Call them 252-661-0337 if you have takeouts, and we appreciate their support of the program. Now we're talking football, and with us right now, I tell you what, he's been with us for the last few years. Cory Smith, man, welcome back to the show. I know that is your adrenaline pumping? I mean, you're a big-time journalist in the Raleigh area. You know all about this rivalry for many years, having covered it. So what are your initial takes on this game?
Yeah, this will actually be my first time, covering it at ECU as, full-time journalist covering NC State. I covered the games back in the, late 2000s, early 2010s, and did a couple of those with Technician and did, a couple more for News and Observer. And then I worked the 2016 game going on the road for that one, but haven't gone to ECU covering NC State full time and having to cover it from that angle and exclusively that angle. So I'm excited about it. Looking forward to Saturday and finally getting this thing underway.
And Cory, before I forget, sorry, Bubba, I'm going to say real quick, and then you can take it, Bubba. I forgot to bring you in as your writer for Pack Pride, 24/7 Sports. If you know Igo for East Carolina, he does it for NC State. So I'm sorry about that. I just realized I was so excited to have you back on. I'm excited about game week at Bubba. I apologize. I forgot to mention where he's coming from.
No problem. That's what I was in the middle of doing when I had my mic issues. Of course, it worked during the pre-show, but as soon as we go live, we have technology kick in. But no, Cory, appreciate you coming back, like Dave said, and this should be a heck of a game. And obviously, NC State, such high expectations. The Pirates are trending in the right direction under Mike Houston, entering year 4. But before we really dive into this matchup, you were talking about your history with this rivalry. What are some of your memories that stand out? You referenced a few games that you've covered.
Yeah, I mean, the one that I remember the most was unfortunately that 2016 game, for NC State side of things. Obviously for ECU, completely different. But yeah, I mean, that was a crazy one, given that, for NC State, they went into that one, I'm not going to say similar expectations to this year, but went into it with a lot of hype, thinking that, if they win that game, then it sets them up for, for bigger things that season. And they lose that game. And, it was Scotty Montgomery's, first win against a Power 5 team. And I'm not sure he won another one later, in the rest of his career. And it was just a dumbfounding game for NC State as a whole, because it was not one of those ones where they made a lot of smart decisions. They made a ton of mistakes. Dave Doran actually even referenced it on Monday when he spoke about this upcoming game. And you wouldn't think that he would bring up those old scars, but I think it's one that still sits with him, and obviously still sits with Pirates fans because of the fact that it was a win over NC State. And again, one of the lone bright spots of the Scotty Montgomery area.
So I have a question for you. I'm putting you on the spot, and I know that you don't feel this way. So, but we saw an article, and Bubba helped me out, and Matt, we saw an article from a Pack fan who said that the Pirates are horrible and they're getting ready to be relegated to FCS. Do you know about that article? And we're not saying, I know you, let me say, I know you didn't write that article. I know you don't feel that way, but what's up with that? Like, I don't have the disrespect for the Wolfpack. In fact, I have stated many times, I think this game, we'll give our predictions on Thursday night, but I think that it's a matter of, for us, I think it's going to be a very tight ball game. And I'm not going to give my prediction. You'll have to watch on Thursday night, but I think it's going to be very, very tight either way. I think both teams could win. I think if 11.5, it's up, guys, to 11.5 points, the spread, take the points. Even if State wins, I don't see them winning by 11.5. I really don't.
I don't know. I don't know a ton about the guy who wrote that article. I did see it come across my timeline. I didn't read it. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I have no idea. I think it's a guy that's had, his own Twitter account for a while, has grown his following on Twitter, and decided, hey, I'm going to start a website and see if I can rile some people up. I have no idea, his background, anything along those lines. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this is going to be a much tighter game than most people, envision. I think it's at the very least, it's going to be tight going into probably the fourth quarter, because I think both these two teams are going to be trying to figure things out when it gets to, after the first quarter. And then I think where this separates for NC State is the defensive side of the ball for them, because this is a team that returns 10 of 11 starters from last year, and has all the depth behind those guys too. A lot of those guys, they lost 6 of their starters by the final game last year. And every single one of those guys that was behind them stepped up and played. There's 2 linebackers sitting behind the starting linebackers right now that both have 5 or more starts from last year because of the way that things turned out last year. So I just think there's so much depth on that defensive side of the football that's what ultimately separates NC State in this one. But I do agree with you. I think it's going to be a much tighter game. And no, I do not think ECU in any way, shape, or form should be relegated to FCS. I still don't even know what the point of that article was.
No, I don't. And I didn't want to say that you said that. So
no,
not you at all. We would be more animated about with you. But I know you're not. I know you would never write anything like that. Welcome to the show. I was giving him a shout out at the beginning of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from LaGrange is Kyle Barber. And I know he's not going to be there. I don't think you're going to be at the game on Saturday, but I know that you're going to be there soon, brother. And we're glad to have you on the show tonight.
Yeah, no, probably going to avoid the 90-degree temperatures and the exposures to COVID with surgery coming up on the 12th. But anyway, you guys talking about an article. I didn't even read the article. I heard about it and the relegation to FCS. The best thing to do with an article, like he got what he wanted. He got attention. He's getting mentioned on podcasts. People talked about it on message boards. That's exactly what he wants. What you do with an idiot is you ignore an idiot, and an idiot will go away. And that's what Pirate fans should have done. Instead, we fed into it. I didn't read it. I will admit,
I will say on the part of David here, he didn't mention the guy's name or anything along those lines. And I honestly have no idea who actually wrote it. I don't know the guy by name or anything along those lines. So it's hard to give an idiot attention when you have no idea who it is.
Yeah, his name is Idiot McIdiot. No, in terms of, you guys are breaking down the game against the Wolfpack. One thing that I've been thinking about is it comes from both sides. From a portion of the fan base. I think it's tough for NC State fans for some, let me say this, for some NC State fans to realize East Carolina's improved a lot over the last few years, that we're not what we were 2017, 2016. Well, we beat y'all in 2016, even though we were terrible. But 2017, 2018, Mike Houston has improved things a lot. And I think it's hard for some NC State fans to grasp that. Just like I think it's hard for some East Carolina fans to grasp that NC State's the number 13th team in the country, and that this could potentially be the best NC State team we've seen. I think it'll be the best team we've seen since Phillip Rivers was there. Some people think it's going to be the greatest NC State team in history. That's a mouthful. I mean, who knows? But let's say this is the 13th best team in the country. NC State's not overrated. If it were West Virginia or South Carolina or Virginia Tech, and I'm using these as examples because these are schools we've played on a regular basis, and they were coming in 13th, everybody would be talking about, can the Pirates pull off the upset? And oh my God, and we don't have that. Pirate fans expect to win this game because we expect to beat NC State. I will warn Pirate fans that if NC State is genuinely the 13th best team in the country, and we lose this game by 10 or 11 points, and NC State goes on to finish 13th or higher, then we're probably a pretty damn good football team, because we just played the number 13 team in the country to less than a 2-touchdown game. So is NC State legitimately the 13th best team in the country? To me, it's the question. If they are, then we have a mountain to climb, a big mountain to climb. As NC State buying into their own hype. Dave Doran's a very mild-mannered, soft-spoken guy. He said some things in the past to piss off East Carolina fans. I noticed he was a little more tactful with his press conference this week than in the past.
Because we're better.
Well, you know what? We were pretty damn good in 13, and they weren't, and he wasn't very tactful. So I think he's being tactful. I think this is going to be a really good NC State team, and I hope Pirate fans do keep that in mind. If we manage to win this game on paper, Bub, I believe this would be our biggest win on paper in terms of ranking since West Virginia in 2008. Is that right?
It is. Obviously, that West Virginia team in 2008 was top 10.
So yeah, this would be a huge upset. So Pirate fans need to realize this. This is this Wolfpack team is not your run of the mill middle of the ACC Wolfpack team, at least on paper, and they got a lot of depth, and that's one thing that scares me a lot about this Wolfpack team. I think our starters probably can match up, particularly in the skill positions, with the NC State starters. The problem is, I think NC State's depth is incredible at a lot of positions, and that's where I'm a little worried.
How about the fact, I don't know about Cal, you're the meteorologist for the Sports Objective, but I don't know about the weather for Saturday, guys, but
89, no rain.
Okay, because the over-under now has gone down to 51.5, and that would, I don't know. I would say that you could argue both ways. Maybe if this is the one thing I will say, but if East Carolina can run the football, they can keep the game very tight, which I think they can. For the fourth quarter, I think that the great thing about Mike Houston is he's built this program where they're going to be in every single game now, where it used to be every game was a blowout. We might win, some, but then all of a sudden we became competitive. And I think now we're at a point where there's games we can win that we shouldn't win. And there might be some games we stump our toe too, but there's a lot of games that are winnable. I think the NC State and the BYU games are the toughest games by far on the schedule.
Yeah, on paper. I mean, you don't know. Cincinnati lost a lot, but they've been recruiting well. We'll find out a lot about Cincinnati this weekend. They play Arkansas right off the bat. So, and that's in Cincinnati. So I would put Cincinnati right up there with BYU and the Wolfpack, despite what they lost. But it's a tough way to open the season for the Pirates. And just speaking from the Wolfpack standpoint, Cory, if the Wolfpack does come into Greenville and stub their toe and get upset, would it be the biggest meltdown in the history of NC State football in terms of the fan base? I mean, with the expectations going into the season, if they were to get upset by the Pirates in week 1, I would expect what's the message board? Pack pride. I would expect it to be a meltdown of epic proportions.
Yeah, I mean there would very clearly be some meltdowns, but I think the clear goal for this team going into the year is to get to 10 plus wins and try to compete in the ACC championship game. So that, you can kind of go and say, okay, well, you lost this game, but now you have to go 3-0 over the next 3. And then, the next big game becomes Clemson. So that, all the goals would still technically be ahead of them if you lose this game. But yeah, this would be a massive letdown for, this team that has gone into the year expecting, to be the best team, one of the best teams in the ACC, and to lose to a team, on the road and in ECU that is, looked at as, kind of being not even near the top of the AAC, even though obviously, ECU fans know how much depth is coming back for this team, how much talent is coming back for this team. But, the expectations for these two teams are completely different from the outset heading into the season. So I do think this is a chance for either one of these teams to really kind of set the tone for the rest of their season. I think for NC State, getting a win, getting out of ECU, and then heading home and trying to, compete for the next 3 games to get to 4-0 before conference play would be massive. Whereas, for ECU, getting a win would be just, over the moon in this one, in the sense that, this is a top 13 team. This is a team that comes into the year with a ton of expectations. But I think the expectations for ECU wouldn't be significantly less if they lose a close game, because like you said, you're doing it against a team that's top 15 in the country, and you have a chance to still accomplish all of your goals the rest of the year too.
Yeah, personally, that's how I'm trying to look at it. I'm trying not to look at it as the typical East Carolina, North Carolina State rivalry game. I'm trying to look at it as we are playing the 13th ranked team in the country, and it's a mountain to climb. And if we climb that mountain, it'll be a huge upset and a great win. And then suddenly our expectations rise a lot. But it's an interesting situation to be in for, I think, NC State, because with all those expectations, and you're right, your goal is to win the ACC championship this year, and I guess Pitt would be one of the favorites, and of course Clemson, along with the Wolfpack,
and Miami's thrown in there as well.
Yeah, Miami, yeah, absolutely. So playing East Carolina, a school that historically has a history of being a thorn in the side of the Wolfpack. The Wolfpack's record in Greenville isn't very good. There's all these things that have got to be in the back of the mind of probably not the Wolfpack players, but certainly some of the coaching staff, and certainly the fans. If I was an NC State fan, I would not want to open up with us, just because it would, oh God, not East Carolina. But at the same time, again, I'm trying to look at it from the standpoint of 13th ranked team in the country, whether it's NC State, West Virginia, or Notre Dame, whoever. 13th ranked team in the country carries a lot of cachet, and it would be a monumental win on the Pirates' part if we pull it off. Like I pointed out earlier, and Bubba confirmed, in terms of ranking, it would be our biggest win since beating West Virginia in 08.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing when it comes to NC State in this one is wanting to have that test, wanting to have that true test going into the season of, knowing that you played a strong team on the road, knowing that you played in a difficult environment, and you're going to get all of that in ECU in week 1. And again, if they're able to come away with a win, it's a monumental one for NC State as well to go ahead and get that on the record and move forward in the season. So, yeah, I agree with all that, and I think that's the reason why NC State wanted to play this game too.
Cory, let's go ahead and dive into some of the personnel in this matchup. Obviously, a tremendous quarterback for the Wolfpack and Devin Leary, receiving all sorts of preseason accolades. So if you would, talk about him, but then also some of that personnel around him. I know NC State lost its top offensive lineman as well as several quality skill pieces.
Yeah, when it comes to Devin Leary, the biggest thing for him has always been the fact that he's just a guy that's cool under pressure. I know a lot of people, the college game is kind of moving towards more of a dual threat style quarterback for the most part. And you're seeing a lot of guys that are, kind of going to a spread style of offense. This has still been a pro style offense. Devin Leary runs it to a T. And one of the biggest reasons why he's been so successful, last year threw for 35 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. And the big reason for that is because he just doesn't try to force passes. The thing for him, he's always said, my favorite target is always the guy that's open. I'm not looking for anybody in particular on any specific play. Obviously he has his first read, second read, third read, but he's always looking for somebody that's open and has the best position. So I just think that's going to be the thing that he's going to be aiming for here, is trying to find exactly what he can do in every single game, every single situation. And that's led him to, being one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the red zone, being one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the fourth quarter. So if this does come down to a tight game, I think NC State still feels very good about what they have at quarterback, regardless of the situation they're in heading into a third or fourth quarter situation.
Cory, with the pack, everybody's talking about the defense of NC State, as they should be, because they're fantastic. Not knocking them against the offense of East Carolina, but I'm curious to see how well. I think the ultimate matchup for this game will be the NC State offense versus the Pirate defense. I think the Pirate defense, I'm not saying they're as good as NC State, but I do think they're improved. I think that with Blake Harrell, man, he's never met a blitz he didn't like. Matt can tell you all about that, and Bubba and Kyle. But that's the thing that I think if NC State is going to have the blowout like some Pac fans think, it would be because he has all the time in the world to throw, and there's no pressure on the quarterback. But if there's pressure like there's been the last two seasons from Blake Harrell's defense, then that gives East Carolina a chance. That's where the matchup, I think, that nobody seems to talk about, is the offense of NC State versus the defense of East Carolina.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, this being the first game, you're probably going to see some of your more exotic blitzes. You're going to see some things that, NC State probably didn't see on tape throughout the offseason. So I think it's going to be interesting in that sense. But at the same time, I'm looking at this offense for NC State. They returned 4 of their 5 offensive linemen from last year, including a guy in Chandler Zavala that only played in the first 5 games, which was when the running game was the most productive that it's been throughout, for all of last year. And they get another guy, and while they lose Ike Ekwonu from last year, they also get a guy, Anthony Belton, that was really, really strong last season. Was everything we heard was really, really strong during the off season. Only played 11 snaps last season, but he's 6'6", 330 pounds, and his nickname is Escalade. So we'll see just how good he is in this game, and I think that's where he's going to have to make his money, is off the edge on the left tackle position, protecting Devin Leary in this ball game, but also trying to open up some holes for this running game, because that's where NC State's at. It's we talked about it, the most unknown. I'm not going to say it's weakest, but we don't know a ton about what we're going to see from Jordan Houston, what we're going to see from Demi Sumo, what we're going to see from all the guys behind them. So that's the big part where NC State really needs to be productive in this game. And if they can find a way to get the ball moving on the ground, open things up for Devin Leary, that's going to make this offense that much more productive. So yeah, I do think that's going to be where the difficulty is going to be for NC State in this game, because I think they feel really good about their defense in this matchup, even though obviously there's a lot of pieces back for ECU, but they're going to need to find ways to score and get things moving there to be able to open this one up.
A couple of areas that I'm really looking at, Cory, you talk about the offensive line of NC State, but on the other side, East Carolina's offensive line is much improved. They're going against an extremely talented, to say the least, front seven, for NC State. So that matchup there, the Pirate ground game was much improved a season ago. But I think on one hand, the yards per carry was a little deceiving, just because we had so many big plays from Keaton Mitchell, and that's part of it for sure. But at the same time, when you needed to get 3 yards in a situation, a lot of times you felt maybe a little more confident with the passing game going to Tyler Snead as opposed to running the football. But that matchup is one to keep an eye on. And then also the passing game of NC State, like you were already referencing, if the Pack does have success on the ground, the Pirates lost Jaquan McMillan. They do have a lot of talent, although outside of Malik Fleming, it's somewhat unproven in the secondary. You do have a transfer coming in from Buffalo in a pre-Washington who has played a lot of football. But those matchups on the outside, it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds.
Yeah, the big thing for NC State that they had coming back from last year was getting a guy in Devin Carter back, former Clayton player, and has really kind of grown into his own at NC State and become a really productive part of this team. They lose Emeka Emezi from last year, but they get him back, and they really like the way that he's played throughout camp. Become more of a veteran receiver. He's a guy that's a big physical receiver, and they have Thayer Thomas that has a chance to take away Emeka Emezi's all-time record in receptions that he just set last year for this program. And he's been, kind of that safety valve guy, down low guy that will probably end up with, 80 plus receptions this season if things go well for him. So I think having those two guys back along with some speed options, we've heard a ton about Julian Gray this offseason and what he can do against their defense so far. He's had some pretty good games. And as we talked about, NC State defense is really tough to match up against. And then there's been some other guys too. A guy named Keon Lassane is also going to be the starting outside receiver. We've heard a ton of this offseason about how much he's progressed. So I'll be interested to see where all of these guys end up throughout the season. And in particular in this game, because they're going to need every single one of them to be able to compete with this ECU defense.
Dave, very quickly, we had a few comments on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. And Chris Fears chimes in. He said, "Did he say Malik Fleming is unproven?" I said that outside of Malik Fleming and a pre-Washington, that we have a lot of talent, but some of those pieces that we're going to be relying on are relatively unproven, or kind of making a position change, such as Juwan Powell moving from safety to corner.
Yeah, interesting thing. I just realized I was looking over NC State's schedule from last year, and it's one of those things that it really doesn't matter. I just find it to be a fun fact, and it's something you probably know, Corey. The Wolfpack only beat one team with a winning record last year. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, it was a 10-win Clemson team, but I just found that interesting. I didn't realize that until just looking over their schedule right now from last year.
Yeah, and a lot of those games were just because of the fact that the ACC was not in the in a great place last year. But yeah, several. I'm not.
Yeah, it was one team. Clemson had 10 wins. You beat a few 6-win teams that finished 500, but okay. Clemson was the only one with a winning record.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I had one question for you, Corey, and one more. The last time NC State won, you know where I'm going with this, an ACC championship, I was in first grade with Miss Suggs' class in Durham, North Carolina at St. Mary's private school. That was 1979. I'm not anywhere close to 6 years old. I think that NC State will be in the mix, but I really think that Clemson is like, we woke up the grizzly bear. I really believe that. Not that I want Clemson to win another ACC championship. I'm not a Clemson fan.
Dabo's getting a little worried about South Carolina's recruiting down there with Mr. Beamer and not being in the SEC. And you got NIL now and Beamer's personality. That could be really good for the Gamecocks and bad for Clemson. But go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, the big thing I was going to say about Clemson, I agree with you. I do think they are still the class of the ACC, but in terms of talent level, the big question is, what are they going to do at quarterback? And, with DJ Uiagalelei, we literally learned how to say his last name last season. And then, didn't even want to say it the rest of the year because he finished with 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions on the entire year. So that's, those are not the type of numbers you want to have. And it's how quickly are they going to, is he going to progress? Is he going to be what everybody's talking about and be that good of a quarterback? Or are we going to have to see, what exactly ends up happening, with them if he doesn't end up progressing, because they've got a 5-star guy behind him, Cade Klubnik, that they feel good about. But we'll see exactly where things stand for them, because I think that's the big question heading into this year is how good can that team be if they can't figure out the quarterback situation.
Yeah, I wish we could have one of those terrible 10-3 seasons like they did.
Go ahead, man.
Cory, looking at this game against East Carolina this weekend, I really think one of the keys to the game, in particular for ECU, is can we get off the field on third down? And, we saw this last year when we faced Cincinnati at home. Numerous times we got them in 3rd and long. and Desmond Ridder was able to make plays with his feet and really bail them out on third downs. We saw it numerous times, and that was probably the biggest difference in that game. Just curious about Leary and his ability to extend plays with his feet. Has he shown that type of athletic ability in the past?
Yeah, he's not really one that's going to extend plays with his feet, but I was actually talking about this with Steve and I go on a podcast earlier today about, how much NC State kind of relied on him, even as a passer in extending drives on third downs. It was like they were trying to force things. They would try to get the run game going in the first 2 downs and then say, all right, Leary, bail us out and get us this third down, convert it, and then we'll kind of figure out things after this. And I think because of that, I think they're going to be a little bit more pass heavy and not try to force things as much this season, or at least that's what we've heard so far. So we'll see how that progresses. But yeah, he's not really a guy that's going to be, somebody that's going to try to roll out of the pocket and do a lot of things that way. He can extend plays with his feet, but I don't think we're going to see him try to roll out and run the football. He's just not that type of quarterback. But yeah, he's just a guy that can beat you with his arm. If he finds the open man, you leave somebody open across the middle of the field, he's going to hit them. If you leave somebody, open on the outside portion of the field, he's going to find them. So I think that's the big thing for him that really helps him a lot.
Yeah, and with that said, I'm really anticipating a big part of the game plan from our defensive coordinator Blake Harrell is going to be, he loves to blitz. Like Dave mentioned earlier, he brings exotic pressure from everywhere on the field, and I'm anticipating heavy blitzing on third down. And I just can't say it enough. I think that when you look back at this game, if we can get off the field on third down, I expect us to be very, very close.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of goes back to something I was saying earlier is for, what makes Devin Leary such a good quarterback is he's kind of unflappable from what we've seen so far. Even after he's been hit in some big games, he's found ways to put together a winning drive in the fourth quarter or, do anything and everything he can. But if ECU is able to make him uncomfortable early and often in this game, then it's going to make it very difficult for him to truly lead this offense. He does have a ton of weapons around him, but again, if you can make him uncomfortable, if you can get to him and you can kind of wear down this offensive line, then yeah, that could certainly help them in this game.
I don't know if it's been talked about yet or not, guys. What's the special teams looking like for the Wolfpack? Kicking game, punting game, return game. I know what the Pirates have coming back. We're going to have, Tyler Seeds graduated or not graduated. He went to the league, and so we're replacing our return man. But we know what we have in kicker and punter. What are the Wolfpack looking like on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, there were 2 big losses from last year. One of them actually being Zonovan Knight, as we mentioned beforehand. In the running game, they lose him, but he was also the overall leader in the entire country in average return yards last season. So they lose him. He ran back 2 touchdowns last year in some pretty critical games. One of them being Wake Forest. And then the following game, I'm blanking on it right now, but he had 2 really big returns for touchdowns last year. And, they lose him as a return man, but I mentioned Julian Gray earlier in the show, the speed that he has. They have him as the lead kick returner right now. And then the other guy being Jordan Houston, also, the lead running back now. So they feel really good about that spot, even though they do lose somebody. The other spot being Trenton Gill, who was a punter for NC State for the last 3 years. He moves on to the NFL. He was actually drafted in this past year's draft, which is very rare for a punter. If you guys watch the NFL draft and keep up with all that, I mean, punters and kickers rarely ever get drafted. And he got drafted by the Bears. He's now made the team. He's their starting punter for this upcoming year. So, but then they went out and got a guy from Towson. His name is Shane McDonough, who has set the Towson punting average record there. So he's done a really good job so far in camp and won that starting job. And then as far as the kicker and every other position, the guy that they get back is Christopher Dunn. He didn't have a great season last season, but he is the all-time NC State leader in career overall points. And he's also the leader in field goals kicked and field goals made for NC State in program history. So getting a guy with that kind of experience back, he did miss some last season that were, some pretty critical ones, but everything that we've heard, he's been extremely healthy this offseason, which has been an issue in the past for him. So he should be healthy, and they feel really good about where they're at in terms of special teams there.
And guys, Bubba, I was going to just, and you can pitch it to you, but Cory, as far as the ECU is concerned, Mike Houston's done something he's never done before. He's actually going for the playmakers. And the reason he's doing that is now he has depth behind. Before we had like a good starting team, but we had nothing. We had no depth after the ones. So it wasn't like that there was no talent. It was just no talent behind the ones, so to speak. And now Houston's being very aggressive, rolling the dice. Keaton Mitchell is going to be the kick returner. I know there's a lot of guys that, there's two schools of thought. Do you put your best players or do you put up-and-coming players to get some playing time? And I think Houston's saying, look, we're rolling this is year 4 for me. We have a lot of depth. We have a lot going for us. Our team is much improved, especially in the depth area. And now when you have a Holt Nailers, when he goes down, you have Mason Garcia that knows the playbook ready to go. A lot of guys the running back room is one of the deepest that we have. So if Keaton Mitchell goes down, it's a big loss, but it's not like he's the only running back we have.
Yeah, let's don't hope Keaton Mitchell goes down. And we had Snead returning punts last year, Dave.
He's a kickoff returner, dude.
Yeah, well, I think you stand a better chance. Well, anyway, let's don't get Keaton hurt. I love Rajay, but after Rajay, it's very unproven. We got talent there, but very unproven. Talking about the Pirates, one spot where the depth does concern me is wide receiver. NC State's got a very good secondary. I do like our starting wide receivers a lot, but I don't know. I look at the depth chart. Guys, by the way, this Dave, Bubba, Matt, any of you know this? Is Tajay Harris? Is Tajay injured? He went on the 2 deep. That surprised me.
Say it again. Who?
Tajay. Am I getting the last name wrong? You know how I'm in with Dave, Bubba. With names, Bubba, even on our
Hudson. Tajay Hudson.
Hudson. I said Harris.
Tajay Hudson. Yes.
Yeah, he wasn't on the 2 deep, which surprised me.
I know he was banged up a little bit in camp, Kyle. He definitely had some injuries there, so not sure about his health status going into this game.
But
I'm the worst with names, Cory, even our own players. I will forget guest names during the show and have to look at the name before I speak, because that's literally one of my weakest traits is remembering people's names. I'm horrible at it, but
that's right. I was in a live interview one time. I did an interview with Thayer Thomas actually this offseason, and I said Devin Finley at one point. So he was laughing at me in the middle of that. So yeah, it's happened. I understand.
Yeah, it happens to me a lot.
Now Kyle B. Page chimes in saying that Tajay Hudson is in fact hurt. Okay. And but to your point though, as far as a potential lack of depth at receiver, that's something that Donnie Kirkpatrick talked about. He said, there are guys that he certainly likes the potential there, but a little too many drop balls during some of the intra-squad scrimmages and so forth. So, after Winstead and Johnson and some of those frontline guys, we have some talent, but they got to make plays more consistent.
Johnson. I hadn't even thought about that, Bubba.
CJ and Jalen.
That's a great NIL deal, man. That's a great NIL deal.
No doubt.
Well, and kind of speaking off, you mentioned the NC State secondary, and I think a lot of attention gets paid to the linebacker core, and a lot of attention gets paid to the defensive line kind of being with Cory Durden coming back and him being an All ACC player last year, and obviously getting Savion Jackson back and him wearing the number 9, which is the first time anyone's worn the number 9 for NC State since Bradley Chubb, and obviously it was previously worn by Mario Williams. So it's kind of a legacy number. And then, with a couple of young guys in the defensive line, a lot of people have kind of put focus on that. But I think the secondary, I know, sorry, I think it was Matt earlier that said we're sick of hearing about Athlon Sports, but Athlon Sports actually did have the secondary ranked inside the top 10 overall in the entire country heading into the season. And a big part of that is the returning depth. You've got a guy in Shaheem Battle that's from the 252 that's been a starter for NC State. This will be his 3rd year as a starter for NC State. And then you have Obviously, opposite of him, Derek Pitts, a guy that comes in from Marshall, that brought kind of a physicality to this team. A little bit of a trash talker and somebody that I think has really helped them in that secondary too. And then Tanner Ingold, that's been there for this is his 5th year with the program. He was a starter out the gate for NC State at nickel and has moved to safety and found a home there. He's somebody that's just a really hard hitting safety across, in that backfield. And then they feel good about the 2 guys that they have that are competing at the free safety spot heading into the season, with both Devin Boykin and Cyrus Fagan, who was lost after the 2nd game last season. And then at the nickel position, Tyler Baker-Williams might be the best defensive player on this entire team at that nickel spot, covering both the slot, tight end, and running backs. And he's somebody that, we've heard over and over and over again that they've struggled to get him the proper amount of attention that he should be getting, even though he puts it out on the field every single time that he plays.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, Cory, looking at this defense, extremely talented, really highly regarded in the national media. It's going to be a huge test for the Pirates. And, I just wanted to circle back for a second here. We were talking about kickoff return. And, one of my biggest concerns with this particular East Carolina team, and this is going way back to spring ball, guys. I was talking about this. One of my concerns is our punt return game. And we have Malik Fleming is going to be our punt returner. And certainly not a knock on Malik Fleming. I mean, he could turn out to be the best punt returner in the history of the school, but he hasn't done it yet at this level. And that's something that concerns me. It only takes one deep punt inside the 10-yard line to be muffed. And, that type of play can turn a game quickly. And, we were used to Tyler Snead back there. He was so reliable. And now we have a new punt return man. So that's something that gives me a little bit of concern, it going all the way back to spring ball.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I think for NC State fans, they went through the same thing with having Nyheim Hines as the punt returner for several years. And not only the dynamic ability that he could bring, but also the sure-handedness that he had, and that transition to Thayer Thomas. And there was a couple games where people were concerned about, whether or not he was really going to cut it out. And, he ended up becoming one of the best punt returners for NC State as well. So, I feel your pain there. I see what you're talking about, but hopefully that doesn't end up being the deciding factor in this game, or, end up changing the way that the game is going, because there's obviously always some nerves about special teams, because everybody looks at offense and defense, and you just hope that doesn't end up making a huge impact on it.
Something else on the special team side of things to keep an eye on. The Pirates will have a new deep snapper. It'll be someone that has snapped at another institution, but that is an area to watch as well. And you brought up the kicking game, obviously Christopher Dunn, and you mentioned all his accolades and being the all-time leading scorer at NC State and so forth. Owen Daffer taking over for a guy like that, and Jake Verity last season. Owen Daffer had a tremendous 2021, pretty much automatic inside of 40, didn't attempt many beyond 40. And then when he finally had the opportunity to attempt his longest of the year, he nailed it in clutch situation to win that game up at Navy. So those are, if this does end up being a 4-quarter game, both teams have excellent kickers.
Yeah, no doubt. Special teams in terms of the kicking game is strong for both teams. Cory, one topic of conversation in Greenville, and I'm sure has been Raleigh some too, has been Ruffin McNeil's return to Greenville. It's funny, I was watching Dave Doran's press conference, and I noticed he used a Ruffin McNeil quote. Ruffin always talked about 4 sides of the ball, and I noticed Doran say offense, defense, special teams, and sideline energy. And that's the Ruffin McNeil thing. Ruffin always talked about there being 4 sides of the ball: offense, defense, special team, and sideline. And it was funny hearing Doran saying that. I said, I wonder where he got that.
Yeah. I do feel like a lot of having Ruffin McNeil around for the last, going on 3 years now at this point. This would be the 3rd season that he's been in Raleigh. And I do think a lot of that has rubbed off on Doran. You can see it in, his demeanor, particularly with the media. You can see it in his, demeanor on the sidelines, and really embracing, bringing that energy and embracing, different things along along those lines. And, one thing that they've also done, they've adapted something called the Juice Squad, which has, been around for the last several years too. And it really seems like more of a recent thing as well. And it's the guys that don't get on the field quite as much. Them bring the energy on the sidelines, them bringing the energy in the weight room, in practices and things like that, or, in scrimmages when they're not on the field. So, you're seeing it, him being a big factor for NC State. And, I think that relationship with him and Dave Doran, while obviously, several years back, it had to be a rivalry. It sounds like for the two of them, it's been, rooted for over 20 years now at this point. When Ruffin was at, I believe it was Fresno State at the time, and Dave Doran was a graduate assistant at USC back in like the late 90s, either 98 or 99. So that relationship has been there for a really long time. And I just think that, again, obviously having a guy like Ruffin around and him being able to kind of, he's not able to be an assistant, but he's able to, give his insight to Dave Doran, give it to the rest of the coaching staff, and, provide that, as the players call him, the OG figure that he gets to bring to each and every single one of them on a daily basis too.
Yeah, and something that I've thought about is in the past, I don't think NC State players have quite got, they look at this rivalry from a different standpoint than East Carolina looks at it. We always, we wake up in the morning and we look over in Raleigh and Chapel Hill and we go, those guys think they're better than us. Screw those guys. And Ruffin knows that. And that's something that I'm sure he's relayed to the NC State players. Probably better than anybody else has been able to in the past, even though I know you guys had, another brain fart, the Falcons offensive line coach,
Dwayne Ledford.
Dwayne Ledford, was there at one point. So he could relay that message also, but Ruffin really gets it.
Yeah, and, Dwayne Ledford was the offensive line coach at the time that Garrett Bradbury was there. And Garrett Bradbury, one of his last plays of his career was rushing a touchdown before he went on to be a first-round pick against ECU. So, yeah, there was a little bit of, wanting to do those types of things because you could at that point. And it's not going to be that easy moving forward, obviously, because of where Mike Houston has his program. So I think at this point, there's been a lot of, you saw it in Dave's press conference on Monday. He was talking about, embracing talking about, that 2016 game, embracing talking about that 2013 game, and, where things stand for him, because he doesn't want it to be, something where people just think, oh, he's brushing it under the rug and he's just looking at the last two games. He knows this program is completely different than where it was in those two seasons. And I think a lot of NC State fans have kind of said, oh, well, ECU is not as good as they think they are. That is not the case at all for this coaching staff of these players.
Now, Cory, as we're close to wrapping things up, obviously taking a look at the big picture, there's, I think, 2025 and 2028 games on the books between these two programs. What are your thoughts on things long term? And I know, I guess yesterday, and I think it'd been in the works for quite some time, but NC State and App State worked out a home and home.
Yeah, I mean, I truly think this could end up being, something where NC State and ECU do face each other more often. And I think it could happen over the next several years too. I know as of right now, I think it's only scheduled for 2025 and maybe 2028, something along those lines. Yeah. And I do think there could be more opening up over the next several years. And a big part of that is the SEC right now looking at going to 9 games. I talked about this with Stephen Igo earlier today, the fact that, there's a chance that some of those dates could open up for NC State where they're playing Florida, or they're playing, a Vanderbilt or something along those lines. Those teams are going to start looking at other Power 5 teams that they're playing outside of their conference and going, if that's a tough opponent, we're taking it off. So they will have that luxury in the next several years. And I think that could end up leading to NC State having more open dates. And as of right now, I think for ECU, there's an open date in like 2024 and even, in like 2031. So we could see, a bunch of different potential dates open up for both of these teams in the next several years. And I think that's where, this kind of, this rivalry could have a chance to be a little bit more in the forefront in the next several years. And I think, however this game goes, whether it's a close game or the way that it kind of leads to for NC State and ECU, I think could be, a really telling sign of where this rivalry goes in the future too.
And Cory, that very point of, I remember Coach Logan, I think it was last year, talking about, or in recent times on his radio show, talking about if he were NC State and the NC State coach, he would tell the athletic administration, I think I've talked to you about this before on our show. He said East Carolina, NC State is such a big deal, especially on the ECU side, maybe more than NC State. But as far as a rivalry, he would schedule the game, the last game of the year, every single year, so that the Pirate fans and the NC State fans, especially the NC State players, would get the rivalry and not overlook them. I don't necessarily think they're going to do that this year, but I think I don't know how the fan base is. The players are going to handle 50,000 people screaming. It's not. This is like I said, this will be the biggest crowd we've had in like 8 years. Somewhere on there, maybe no. What do we say? 2016, I think, with you guys, 6 years. So even the North Carolina game, guys, in 2018, I think that was like 40-some thousand. It was not a sellout, but this program is a lot better. I think that, again, going back to we're talking about NC State and East Carolina. I just hope that the fans for both schools, but especially with the Pac fans, will respect East Carolina, because I heard the ACC media, I think WRL, some of those guys were like going, NC State's going to go in there and they're going to like mop up East Carolina. Those aren't the exact words. And I was going, these guys like know anything about a rivalry? Do the guys know about NC State, ECU? Even if ECU was better, there's been times when both teams were better than the other and the other team won. You can make cases for East Carolina, NC State. And I think, like I said, I don't think anybody that puts 11.5, I would take the points, even if you take NC State. I think this is going to be a real nail biter. It's going to be one of those instant classic games. I really do. I don't think East Carolina is going to blow them out, and I don't think NC State's going to blow them out. And I think that's, to only have 51 points, does that mean that, like, what is the Pac Nation? I mean, what do they think? Like, it's going to be like, I don't know. If it's 51 points, it's going to be like 41-10.
Well, based on the over/under, and then based on the line, Dave, that would be like 31-20.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, they think. I know. I'm talking about some of the fans in the Pac. As far as
you got extreme fans on both sides, man.
Yeah, I think you're gonna. I think again, like kind of like Carl's saying there, I think you're gonna have fans on both sides that are saying, well, I think we have a chance to blow this one out. But I think it's going to come down to the second half. I don't think it's going to be, a blowout right away. And then you've got other fans that are like, yeah, I mean, I've seen this one play out before. We've seen this game before. And I think that's most logical NC State fans that have been around for a while. It's not your guys that are like, the Pac by 50 or whatever kind of crowd that's, just kind of making stuff up as they go. If you actually look at both of these teams.
So Chuck Amato, I don't mean to cut you off, Cory, though Chuck Amato did say that the Pirates didn't stand a chance. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that was, yeah. I mean, again, I think that's just a, when it comes to Chuck Amato, it's more of, breeding confidence in the team too. And
was his clown shoes too tight?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is, again, and I've said this a few times, I do think this is going to be a very tight game. I do think NC State has a chance to separate things in the fourth quarter, and that's because of, like we talked about multiple times, the defense, the where the depth stands from that standpoint. I think they're going to be a little more fresh going into the fourth quarter, but at the same time, this is also first game of the year, so crazy things can happen.
Yeah, and I think that's a big point when you look at this game. It's the first game of the year, and you never know. In college football, you just never know about the first game. It's not like you get scrimmages where you face off against other teams. You get 2 intra-squad scrimmages, and it leads to a lot of unpredictability. And that's why I enjoy the first week matchups, because from a coaching perspective, the team that's best prepared has a chance to win the game. And, you really do see coaching come into play, especially in the first week of the season here. So that is a huge point. And, I mean, the big thing too for East Carolina is, I don't think that the guys on this team, now that we have a little more experience, they don't really look at this as, as a Super Bowl. They should really be looking at this as just any other game, because that's really what it is. It's an in-state rival, but it's not a conference game. And I think that's the way they're going to approach it is, hey, we're going to go out, try to take care of business. It's just another game.
Yeah, you can lose the BYU game and the NC State game, the two toughest games on the schedule, and still, speaking of upsets, Cory, before we let you go, I really believe the media is correct about NC State being in the hunt for a championship, but the American media picking ECU is number six in the conference. That was very disrespectful. So
two things I'm going to predict right now about the American. East Carolina will not finish sixth, and Houston will not win the league. I don't know who's going to win the league. It may be Cincinnati again, but we will not finish sixth in the American. And old Captain Slapnuts down there at Houston, the most overrated coach in the country, will not. In fact, the spoiler guys. Upset specials. I don't know when we're going to do those, or if we're going to do any picks
Thursday
for the week. Thursday. Okay, well I'll save it because them boys in Houston have a little trip to make down to San Antonio this weekend.
That's all I'm saying.
No, Cory, we have a question for you here on the screen from Johnny Gardner. He's saying is Battle an NFL caliber player?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, I think from what we saw last season, he doesn't make a ton of flashy plays, but he's just a guy that, really good size for a cornerback, has really good hips, sticks on wide receivers on a consistent basis. Again, he's not a guy that's had a ton of interceptions, but a lot of it is because people stopped throwing his way. They were trying to get on deep routes against Derek Pitts, trying to get, him off balance. And then a lot of times it would end up leading to safeties like Tanner Ingle getting over top, or Cyrus Fagan, which we should see a little bit more of this year. But yeah, I think the big thing for Shyheim Battle has just been him becoming more of a coverage cornerback, a guy that's just so strong there in that department. And I think that's going to end up leading to him, being an NFL quarterback in the near future.
All right, before we let you go, Cory, plug your website. I know Pack Pride, and I know that a lot of people follow you on social media. Tell folks about that and about what your coverage is going to be for this game.
Yeah, so obviously packpride.com is the place where you can find us. You can follow us at Pack Pride on Twitter, or Pack Pride on Facebook, on Instagram. We also have a TikTok account, so there's that you can follow too. And then, I mean, as you see, my name is there at the bottom. At Cory Smith is where you can follow me. It's Cory with no E. And so make sure to follow me on there. And as far as the coverage, yeah, I'll be there on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. We'll have a couple of writers with us. We'll also have a couple of photographers on the field. It's a really big game, a chance to, for NC State and for ECU to really prove themselves. So I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what's going to happen on Saturday.
And Cory, by the way, come by our tailgate because Porky's Backyard Barbecue. We'll feed you. And I know there's going to be great food up in the press box there in Town Bake Tower, but stop by if you get a chance to say hey.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Y'all have to get up with you and make sure I know where you're at, because I'll be out there a couple hours early as well.
All right, man. Thanks for the time. We didn't know we were going to go this long with you. You're generous as always. We appreciate the time, and good luck to the Pack. We'll see how it goes, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Cory. Appreciate you, buddy. Have a good night. All right. Appreciate Cory Smith there from Pack Pride. Overtime. Maybe the game will go in overtime. And by the way, Bubba, can I do an audible here? Something that's I know that Pirate fans have been I know we want to talk football, but how do you guys feel about, I'm going to put you guys on the spot on purpose. I didn't put this in the group text. How do you guys feel about Harold Varner's announcement today in the Live Tour? The Saudi-based pro golf tour. He is making a lot of money. So I want to get your take on that.
I get the money. I think taking Saudi Arabia money's blood money. WWE's done it recently, and I felt the same way. They're we know what they are, and if you don't know what they are, then I don't know what to tell you. But it's hard to turn down a lot of money, but in my opinion, it's blood money if it's Saudi money.
Well, let me ask you guys this: if LeBron, why is it? I don't understand. I think I know why, but why is this any different than Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, all the basketball players going to Russia and China who are just as big of a foe, if you will, certainly enemy of the state of the United States of America, and they take a lot of money. So why don't we? I don't understand why all of a sudden we're anti Harold Varner, some of the Pirate fans, people, golf fans in general. I tell you guys, there's a take I haven't heard anybody say on it. I believe with all my heart, I understand the patriotism, but there's another angle that nobody's talking about. I think people don't like change.
I think part of it is, Dave, is Saudi Arabia's treatment of women in Muslim culture versus, Russia's just an oppressive government. Everybody gets oppressed, and the same with China. Supposed support of terrorist organizations in the past. And Saudi Arabia is trying to change their image. But to me, it's going to take a longer period of time for Americans to embrace that and see that it's true. I wouldn't set foot in Saudi Arabia, no matter how much money they pay me, because I would be scared I wouldn't make it back alive because I know me. I don't embrace Russia and I don't embrace China or any athletes taking money from them. I have nothing against Harold Varner. I love him. He's a great Pirate, and I'll applaud him when he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. Just speaking to me personally, it's hard to say what you would and wouldn't do for a lot of money, but it is blood money. But I can't blame a man for taking a big paycheck and making sure his family's set up for life.
What if they offered you $10 million a year? Would you take it? With you and Jessica?
It's hard to say no. It's hard to say no to that kind of money. But do what?
Ask Jessica if she would take it.
It was hard to say no to that kind of money, but at the same time, I would know what I was taking, and I wouldn't deny it. I mean, you got to understand when you're going to sign up for something like that you're going to get criticism, and I'm sure Harold did. So I'm sure he expects some of the criticism and the reaction he is getting. I don't think it's unwarranted. At the same time, it doesn't change who Harold Varner is. It is hard to turn down that kind of money, and when you got a wife and kids. And so, I don't blame Harold for taking it, but I do call it what it is, and Saudi Arabia is going to have to prove to me over a long period of time that they're not what they used to be.
Yeah, and just to your point, Dave, I have a much bigger problem right now with athletes, with the deals through China. I have a major problem with that, and it doesn't get talked about, as much in the media.
What's the difference?
What's the difference?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in other words, you have, I think it's a popularity of the sport. I think LeBron James and we know Kobe Bryant's done it. We know former presidents have taken $1 million speeches, Democrats and Republicans. I'm not getting in a political battle here. This is a sports show, the sports objective, but there's a lot of people we could call out that have taken, it's hypocritical because all of a sudden you go, that Harold Varner, but then you don't think about there's other people.
Well, LeBron James isn't a Pirate, so that's why Pirate fans have a reaction to it. Right. We don't, so that's why it's personal, more so to us. I don't blame LeBron. To me, I look more at the past of journalists being killed, and still the treatment of women in the country. The treatment of women in that country, they're still treated like second, third, fourth, fifth class citizens, and that bothers me. And they have to cover up from head to toe, and I know it's part of Muslim culture, and I'm not getting into a cultural war, but I just don't. I don't agree with it, but at the same time, I can't say, honestly, it would be hard for me. I wouldn't want to go to Saudi Arabia, but it would be hard for me to turn down $10 million.
But that's the thing, Kyle. They're doing tournaments all over the world. In fact, Harold is going to do
I know.
Up your way, right, Matt? It's a tournament up your way this weekend. And you only had to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
How well is that being supported by Americans? I mean, do most Americans realize that it is Saudi-owned and ran?
Oh, yeah. But I think
so. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Dave. I was just going to say, I guarantee, fellas, that Harold Varner has been meeting with, his if he has advisors, I'm sure he has an advisor. He has been in discussions about this for weeks, if not months, and weighing the consequences. And certainly, he knew there was going to be blowback to this. I mean, everybody did. Phil Mickelson, all the big dogs that decided to go to no doubt about it. So huge decision. I can just say personal experience, and I'm not trying to deflect here, but I had an opportunity to meet Harold Varner last year at a football game. He is a great guy. He was first class, top notch to my family, to my son. Had a great experience with him as a person. It's a really private decision, and I think that I think the reality is when somebody throws $10 million at you, $20 million, whatever it is, you really don't know how you're going to react. And it's hard to say no to that kind of money. It really is. So,
yeah, I'll give you a good point, Dave. I don't know where you were going, but I got a better point than whatever you're probably going to ask me.
No.
Well, just knowing, okay, Bill Goldberg. You know what Goldberg? Do you get that last name?
Yep.
Okay, that's Jewish. Bill Goldberg came out of retirement to compete for a match in the WWE in Saudi Arabia, and we all know how the Muslim people feel about the Jewish. So if Bill Goldberg will take the money to go to Saudi Arabia, then you can't really blame Harold too much when you think about it that way.
Kyle, what I was going to say is complimentary of you because we're wrestling fans. Remember the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase? Everybody's
got a price. Hey,
everybody's got a price.
Speaking of that, he's in trouble right now. He's well, a little close to home. He's part of that scandal with Mississippi and the welfare fraud. Only his he had a charity group that was taking millions of dollars from it, and turns out they weren't really doing stuff with it. So he kind of lived up to his gimmick. But he's facing some trouble from the state of Mississippi.
I knew about that with Brett Favre or whatever that situation. But anyway, that I was just curious. I think, guys, another thing too is that I actually think it's good for the sport. There's some reporters for golf that said they're not going to cover it. Are you kidding me? Like, I think
that's fine. I mean, I think that's perfectly fine.
I know, but like,
that's to me sticking to your guns and sticking to your principles. I mean, if you feel that strongly about something, particularly as a member of the media, and knowing how media people have been beheaded, there have been members of the media beheaded in Saudi Arabia. So you're a member of the media. You don't want to cover something that's Saudi owned. To me, you're sticking to your guns and to your beliefs, and that's fine. And it's also fine if you want to cover it, because the good thing is, particularly in America, it's coming to America. You said up Matt's way, and in America, we're free to choose, and we can and the media is free to choose to cover it or not cover it.
No doubt. But I was just
go ahead. I was just going to say, that is true. And I think that my big thing is like something that I really look at is consistency. And, if the media is going to boycott certain events,
right,
then be consistent across the board and boycott all of them. I mean, that's my big thing. And that's my big thing as it relates to anything, not to get into politics, but just be consistent across the board. And
what do you mean by that, Matt?
Well, if you're going to boycott certain events because Saudi Arabia is involved, then you need to be consistent, and you need to boycott events that maybe Russia is involved in, or
the one difference
the government of China, or you know what I'm saying. You just have to be really consistent.
The one thing I would say, particularly with media members, and I'm surprised that Dave overlooked this, was that media members have been killed in Saudi Arabia, and I don't know.
I knew that.
Yeah, I don't know that that's happened in Russia or China. Maybe it has. I don't know. I know they'll lock your ass up and you might not come home for a while.
Yeah.
But I don't know that anybody's been beheaded at this immediate member. So to me, that may be the difference. That may be the only difference that I can logically think of from a member of the media standpoint.
And well, I guess Bubba is behind the scenes.
Bubba wanted no part of this.
All right. Well, B-Pace has a great guys. This was over the weekend. Wonder how the Big 12 feels about the BYU situation. This is not the first time with BYU. Duke.
I don't know what are you referring to? Did something
That's
happen?
what I was at BYU. Duke was playing at BYU, and there was a fan that continuously used the N-word every time the African American player for Duke.
What sport was this?
Volleyball. Your favorite sport?
So a BYU fan was yelling the N-word at a Duke volleyball player, and was he ejected?
Yes, and he's been banned from that. He's asking about.
I don't think you can stereotype all Mormons as racist towards black people because of one ignorant ass yelling the N-word. I mean, that would be like saying all white Southerners are racist. You know, there are people who believe that. I do think there's not a lot of African Americans in Utah, but I wouldn't. You know, there's also, you know, I wonder how a lot of those big old Samoan boys feel about him using that N-word, because they're a minority too. Why don't they let a couple of them big old Samoan boys that are always hanging around BYU get a hold of that fella and teach him some manners?
Yeah, no doubt. Somebody needs to teach him some manners, because that is honestly for a person to do that, to be that inappropriate, to be
that's just ignorant.
It's really a disgrace. And you know, I'm glad to hear that he's banned. I hope BYU bans him from every sporting event for the rest of his life. It's just ignorance at its finest. And hated to hear that story, especially for that young lady at Duke who, you know, she's out there competing, and
was it a student?
Has to deal with that kind of garbage.
Oh, I don't know about. You mean the fan?
Yes, correct.
Oh, I don't know about that. I knew there was.
You know, they don't serve alcohol at the BYU games. I don't know. What do you think you're going to accomplish by doing that? Do you think somebody's going to think that's funny? That's not funny. It's not clever. It's not creative. It's crude. It's rude. It's racist. It's trash. And you know, and like B. Page just said, it immediately people, you know, are all Mormons that way? You know, I think that's kind of reverse racism. But no, I mean, I don't think BYU handled it appropriately if they ejected him and banned him, and I hope that that's the last we hear of anything like that.
Yeah, he said that. I thought
they let him stay in the game. They didn't ban him until after the game. Well, now Pays, if that's the case, if they let him stay at the game, that's ridiculous. No, if you're yelling the N-word, you got to be ejected. I mean, that's not yelling shit, you know, that may offend someone. There are some words that, you know, just should not be said to other people, and that's one of them. And I'm glad they banned him afterwards, but he should have been thrown out of the game immediately.
Yeah, I heard differently. Sorry about that, B-Pace. But yeah, the fact is that we've got to look at this. I think fans are doing that. I think that's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Not that it's right, obviously. I think it's wrong. And if you think that saying that is okay, then first of all, it's wrong. And also,
you mean he was saying it to get under her skin?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not even clever. Call her.
No, I know that. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's why.
You know, talk about you know how she looks like a gangly idiot, or I don't know. Be clever. Gangly idiot's not very clever. But to me, yelling. Well, I don't know. I used to say I would never yell at student athletes. I think that's in poor taste. But if they start getting paid, I might yell at them. But never that word. But I don't know. That's just an idiot. That's just there's no other way to describe them than just a racist, bigoted idiot. And no place for that at BYU, ECU, or anywhere else.
No doubt. And we'll see if hopefully they never, you know, they said they banned him. Is this one of those bans where it's permanent, or is it really a like they did that because they knew the media and the fans of Duke and the fans of college sports and just mankind, the humans?
Well, you know, BYU has been playing. You know, I don't know if I'd like to hear now. You know, East Carolina play football out there. You know, Ruffin McNeil was on the sidelines. Is this something that's happened in the past at football games or basketball games, and you know has gone unreported? You know, or is this just what it is, an isolated incident? That's a good question. You know, is this something that other players have experienced in other sports?
God, I hope it is, Kyle. I really hope that this is an isolated incident, because It's just disgusting behavior, and we should be far past this as a country for any type of, whether if it's black, white, whatever it is, we should be way past this as a country. It's just a disgrace. So definitely, listen. Having played college sports, I got called every name in the book.
Okay. I called you a honky a couple times.
Yeah. What was that one?
A honky.
I think I did get called a honky once or twice, but yeah, you call me any name in the book. But if I ever heard somebody use that word to one of my teammates or to one of my friends, it would have been go time. I would have probably jumped into the stands myself.
Yeah. That's another thing. Good point, Matt. You made a point that I don't even think you were trying to make. He was yelling at a young lady. It wasn't even a guy. Why don't you yell at one of those football players? See what happens to you.
Yeah,
exactly.
And why would you even be at, my point is, why did you go to the BYU volleyball game if you had a problem with that player being African-American, that player being brown and black? I mean, that's crazy. But anyway, I guess we're not, as a good friend of mine said once, you can't rationalize irrational behavior. And that's something that just, we could talk all night about that. But guys.
And you can't fix stupid.
Thank you, Ron White. You're exactly right about that. Oh, my goodness. Guys, do you have any takeaway points? By the way, I didn't want to bring it up, but NC State hasn't won a road game since 1999. I think that
they haven't won a road game since 1999.
Yep.
What are you talking about?
That's just what I said. They haven't won a road.
NC State has won a road game since 1999.
Road opener. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I knew you were leaving something out. I just wasn't sure what it was.
I wasn't either. I was like, does he mean in Greenville? I was like, no, we beat them in 99. I was like, what is he talking about? They haven't won a road opener since 99, and Coach Houston has not won a road opener. Excuse me. Coach Houston has not won an opener since he's been in Greenville. So something's got to give.
That's right. We'll see what happens there, and it's going to be. We'll save our picks for Thursday nights. Thanks to all our great. By the way,
I'm going to give a couple. I may not be on Thursday night, guys. I'm going to say a couple real fast things, and we'll close it out. Upsets of the week, in my opinion, UTSA over Houston. I like that game a lot. It's in San Antonio. Yep. I think Houston's overrated. I think UTSA is underrated. I think UTSA gets the upset there. They're 4-point underdogs. Another one, it may have flipped by now. Early, Nevada was a 3-point favorite over Texas State. It was down to a half a point last I saw. I watched Nevada play Saturday night against New Mexico State. They looked awful. They may get some things worked out between week 0 and week 1. But I would, if you can get Texas State still as the dog in that game, I would take Texas State over Nevada. Those are my two upsets of the week. I like both of those games a lot. UTSA over Houston and Texas State over Nevada.
No doubt. By the way, guys, we want to mention all our great programming. And Brandon Forbush, hello. We'll be praying for your grandma, by the way, Brandon. Don't forget the backyard brawl on Thursday night between West Virginia and Pitt. Absolutely one of the best games this week, Brandon, of course.
I never will forget talking to Brandon Forbush, speaking of Brandon's grandma. And Brandon, it was the home opener for Mike Houston. And Brandon called me, and he was trying to figure out how to get from Cadbury Gym or whatever it's called.
Christian's Berry.
Yeah, Christian Berry Gym.
Cadbury, oh my God.
Cadbury Easter egg, Kyle.
Yeah, Christian Berry Gym. And he was trying to figure out how to get from there to the stadium with the bus. They were picking people up from Christian Berry and taking them to the stadium. And he told his grandma, I was on the phone with him, he goes, Grandma, if we can't get on the transit, we're just going to have to walk.
Oh my goodness, Brandon, we definitely love that game, and great to have those two rivals playing against each other again, for sure. Guys, we want to mention our programming that we started on Monday nights. Bubba, I'll pitch it to you for that. We've got programming all throughout the week, starting with Monday night.
Yeah, obviously right now you're watching the Pirate Preview, but last night we had the debut episode of Absolute Empowerment with Jeff Connors. He called up Larry Shannon, Leonard Henry, and Mike Swift, 3 Pirate football letter winners. Had an excellent conversation of just shy of an hour, so definitely go back and check that out. Had some technical issues, so it is split up into 2 parts, but both of those are on YouTube as well as pretty much everywhere podcasts are found. Tomorrow night we'll have the debut episode of Sonny and Semenza. I'll let Matt say a quick word about that if he wants to here in a moment. And then also the debut episode of Pirate Breakdown with Sutton Young. On Thursday night, it's the Inside Slant. I'm sure, briefly touch on the NC State East Carolina matchup, but that night will be more spent, and we'll have a conversation that we'll play back that I will have already had with Adam Witten, the play-by-play voice of the App State Mountaineers, as they have North Carolina coming to Kid Brewer Stadium for their season opener. Obviously, the Tar Heels coming off a victory over FAMU, and then on Friday, a recorded conversation with John Kazaza, the first ever East Carolina quarterback to beat NC State way back in 1971. So you'll hear that half-hour conversation with John again right at lunchtime. And then on Saturday, the Pulse of Pirate Nation, that's an abbreviated version of the show, roughly 5 to 10 minutes. And last year we called up with guys like Scott Harley, Jason Halter, Bryce Williams, and other former players, just very quickly, getting their thoughts on whoever the Pirates were playing that day. And then last but certainly not least, on Sunday night, the Pirate Football Playback presented by L&K Custom Homes. We'll take a look back at whoever the Pirates played, and then dissect the game, give you our thoughts on everything that transpired in that contest.
Hey guys,
so Matt, do you want to chime in? Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Craig has a great line on Facebook. He says, Sonny and Semenza sounds like Miami Vice just said in Newark.
Well, I'm from that area. I'm from the Newark area, Craig. So you're not far off at all. But that's great.
Well played, Craig.
Yeah.
Well played.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a chance to team up with Jay Sunhalter for this show, and just in case people aren't aware of what the show is going to be about, what we're going to do is we're going to step away from East Carolina a little bit, and we're going to pick the top 5 to 7 games of the week around the country. We're going to preview those games and then pick a winner against the point spread. So just like Kyle just sort of, analyzed the Nevada game and whatnot, we're going to take a look at this week games like Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oregon versus Georgia, Florida State versus LSU. We're going to take a look at some of those big games. And then at the end, we're also going to dive into to the East Carolina game. And then we're going to have our locks of the week, our stone cold lead pipe locks of the week. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a quick show. We wanted this to be like a 30 to 35 minute, quick hitter, a lot of information packed in, and hopefully we're able to pick some winners for people, or at least help out a little bit.
And Dave, did you say there's a Sports Objective tailgate this year?
There is, brought to you by, in fact, he's calling me right now. Mark, I'll call you in just a second if he's watching. He watches our show now. Porky's Backyard Barbecue. We're making the menu. That's what he's calling me about right now. Live. We're doing our show. But we're going to actually have Porky's Backyard Barbecue is sponsoring our tailgate. So Kyle, come over and certainly whenever you can. Once, I guess that will be the ODU game. You'll be back with us, maybe.
I don't know. That's 2 days before my surgery. I don't know if I'll be at the ODU game or not.
But anyway, we want to appreciate their support of the program. Thanks to Porky's Backyard Barbecue for sponsoring the show and stepping up. They're going to give us great food, and we'll tell you about a location for Saturday to stop by. We love to see our fans of the show, and obviously our Pirate fans, and ECU fans.
We'll sure.
Fans for sure.
All right.
Bubba doesn't realize he's not muted.
No doubt. Thanks to Porky's again for their support. How about guys? Matt, I forgot to get I've got to get football gloves for my son, and pgxgloves.com. Kyle, you know about how great Mark Manikazi is, and pgxgloves.com.
Yeah, PGX. Let me try that again. pgxgloves.com. Place to go for all your sporting gloves needs. If you play golf, maybe your kid plays football and he's a receiver or whatever, needs some gloves. Whatever gloves you need from kids to adults, custom gloves, all kinds of cool gloves at pgxgloves.com. And with that promo code ECU, you save 25% off.
Thank you very much, Kyle.
That's awesome, fellas. You know why? When I played, the only thing we had was Newman's, and we used to have to rub Stickum, a little Stickum on the glove. So I like the advancements here with the PGX gloves, fellas.
And by the way, Bubba, did you see that? B Pays wants to do a show with us. Do you think we have room for B Pays? What day can I have for the Sports Objective Rap Attack? Hey, brother, anytime. I love, Pays and I go way back to WZMB Zombie Radio. He's one of the coolest people on the planet. So Pays, I'm all down for it. And by the way, Pays, everybody check out. I created it. So Pays and I are both DJs, but just want to get, he maybe can do one too for us. But we have the TSO, the Sports Objective Tailgate. We have basically it's a playlist that you can use for your tailgate. And that's on Spotify. I made that a couple years ago. I was bored. I made it and updated a little bit. And Paige, check that out. We can add some more hip hop songs there, but certainly, I think we'll be fine if you play that for sure. Have you checked it out, Bubba?
No, I haven't. Please send me the link again. I know you have in the past. Okay. What you have some Barry White, John Mayer. What all you got on there?
Oh man, I tried to.
I'm obviously joking, but some AC/DC and so forth.
Yeah, a lot of party songs, a lot of mixture of different. I love different types of music, and thank you, B-Pays. Praying for you, Kyle. Appreciate you, brother, for saying that. And also, Craig, I know, said slow clap. He's pulling hard for you. He said that earlier on Facebook. So thank you very much.
Appreciate all the love and support from Pirate Nation. It means a lot. And if anybody has a club level seat that they want to get rid of for Saturday, maybe hit your boy up.
All right, there you go, Pirate Nation. Hey, Kyle, you can sit in the press box.
I thought about that, Dave. I know we have press pass normally, and it has crossed my mind. At this point, I'm leaning more towards watching it on TV. I'm overly paranoid right now, but I don't want anything to screw me up for the 12th. But who knows? Who knows where I may show up? Right. It's kind of one of those things. Do you take a chance and live life, or do you play it safe to make sure you get the surgery you need? So it's a quandary. But anyway.
No doubt. And we're pulling hard for you, brother. Appreciate you very much. And I'm excited that you were on the show tonight. You added so much as usual. It's refreshing when we have you on the show. It's not the same without you.
I appreciate it. I at least made it longer, if nothing else.
No doubt. All right, guys, you want to get out of here? I know we went a little long tonight, but certainly we had Cory on. Appreciate him for listen to me, Pack Pride, and appreciate him very much for the breakdown. You guys, we'll see how things work out. Good luck to you, Matt, with Sonny and Semenza. And be sure to check out all our programming on YouTube all season long. We'll have more for basketball and baseball. That's a little hint. And we'll have that a lot of coverage for you between now and the end of baseball season. All right, we'll get out of here. Thank you, guys. Thanks to all our great sponsors. Thanks to Cory again. And I hope you have a great night. You've been watching the Pirate Preview, the first of the season here, football season. And it's right here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody. And as always, go Pirates.
I'm a pirate down to my soul, and I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode, from the sidelines down to the post. Put it down like not even close, all out to the last whistle blow. From the flag with the soul and bones. Everybody stand up, get your hands up, let the team know that we got they back. This is our house, this is our town, our time, Rebel 19, copy that. Everybody in the stands go bananas, scream loud, baby, don't hold back. Every foot, every yard, every first down, every touchdown with the cannons blast.